Well, hello everyone, and we bring you greetings to BBC Worldwide, Birmingham Bible Church Worldwide. Hello, this is our Winning Wednesday. It is 12 noon Central Standard Time here in Birmingham, Alabama, and we just like to thank all of you for watching today, whether it is on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram. We welcome you. If you're watching in your home, on your job, in traffic, wherever you are, please be safe. But we like to welcome you on today. And of course, today we want to bring you yet some more great information on what's going on in our world, in our society. So please make sure you share this with someone, make sure you tell someone, make sure you text someone,
about the information that is about to be presented on today. And today we are going to be talking about Alzheimer's, which when I was growing up was called old timers. I don't know if some of you remember that or not. But why are we talking about this topic? Well, millions of people have been affected by Alzheimer's. Some of us have them in our own families, and of course, we need to know what it is, what the signs are. Maybe you have a family member who you're kind of questioning if they have Alzheimer's or not. But this is a great segment, and so this is for you on today. This of course, this disease affects the people. It affects their caregivers because they have to take care of them. Their life is disrupted in some form or fashion, of course, and then of course our health system is also affected as well. So on today we have Miss Lisa Holman. She is the director of programs here at the Alabama chapter for the Alzheimer's Association, and so she's going to tell us everything that we need to know, what it is, what the symptoms are, if there's any help. And so, of course, if you have any questions, please make sure you post them right here on whatever channel that you are watching so that we can get to you and we can get your questions answered. So, hello, Miss Lisa.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you just accepting this invitation.
Sure.
And if you could just, go ahead with your presentation and just talk about Alzheimer's and just act like we don't know anything about it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
And let me know. Okay, can you see that?
I see that. Wonderful.
All right, perfect. Well, so as she said, my name is Lisa Holman. I am the director of programs for the Alabama chapter of the Alzheimer's Association. I have been with the association for right at 4 years now, but have been in nonprofit pretty much my entire career. I was with domestic violence and child abuse for a long time, and then with suicide prevention, and then with ALS. But Alzheimer's, actually, I have a family history of it. So this disease and mission is very personal to me. My grandmother passed away with Alzheimer's disease, as did two of her sisters, and then also her mother. Of course, then they just thought, that she had senility, is what they called it back then. And so, so anyway, so this is, it's very personal to me. One of the things that I'm going to talk about today is just the landscape of Alzheimer's. We're going to talk about Alzheimer's and dementia and what the difference is in those two things. We'll talk a little bit about early detection and diagnosis. And then I'm going to talk a lot towards the end about just kind of what's going on in clinical trials and treatments and research today. Again, since I do have a family history, I am super passionate about the research side of things, and so I'm always excited about that, and I do think this is a really, really hopeful time in Alzheimer's research. And then I'm going to talk just a little bit about the association and some of the resources we have. We hate if we go into a community and they say, and we talk about, some of the resources that we have, and we hear people say all the time, oh, if I had only known the association was around, when my mother was going through Alzheimer's, or my brother or father or whatnot. And so, anything you guys can do to help us spread the word, we would greatly appreciate that. So just to kind of start off with, and let me just preface this too with saying I am not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination. My background is in social work and programmatic things, and so, but I do get the privilege, actually, of being around a lot of researchers that work in our med-sci department, and they do a really, really good job of trying to put things in layman's terms that we can understand, that then in turn, that we can go out and present to the community. So, so again, just wanted to preface that with, I am not a researcher by any stretch, but again, this is my passion, kind of. So let's just start a little bit with some facts and figures. And this is a little older of a slide since we're in 2021 now, but we have more than 5 million Americans that are currently living with Alzheimer's disease. It is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States, as well as here in Alabama. We have 16 million people who provide unpaid care for people with Alzheimer's or dementia. Here in Alabama, we have over 96,000 people who have Alzheimer's. And actually, that is just people over the age of 65. That does not count people who have younger onset Alzheimer's. And younger onset Alzheimer's is someone who is under the age of 65 who actually gets diagnosed with the disease. But still, close to 100,000 of 65 plus with the disease. We have over 300,000 unpaid caregivers here in the state. One of the most alarming statistics, I think, on this page that kind of always makes everybody's jaw drop is that Alabama actually has the highest death rate in America from Alzheimer's disease. And people ask all the time, will ask me when I say that, well, gosh, Lisa, why is that? And typically in the top 5, Alabama is usually in that top 5. It kind of bounces around, but generally it's always southern states that are in those top 5. We just kind of switch spots. And just the best answer that I can get, again, from researchers is just that, we have a lot of comorbidities with obesity and diabetes and heart disease and things like that. And we're learning that those things kind of can all be, really intertwined and put us at a higher risk. Just to kind of let you know that, again, that's one of the statistics that always is kind of very alarming to people. So the Alzheimer's Association, we are a worldwide voluntary health organization, and we really are trying to accelerate global research, which I'll talk about, driving risk reduction and early detection, and then really offering some quality care and support programs. So look, I am a very visual person. So this, and I'm going to talk more about the association programs at the very end of the presentation, but this just kind of gives you, if you look on the left side of the screen, when a family is going through Alzheimer's, it really is like trying to push a boulder up a mountain. And so you can see, the little image of that person pushing that boulder up the hill. And at the association, we do a lot of different programs and a lot of aspects of our work. Really, we want to help push that boulder up the mountain. And so we do that through offering some programs that are, what I would say one-to-one kind of programs, or, one to few. So one-to-one maybe, like through our 24/7 helpline that I'll tell you a little bit more about in a minute. But we have care consultants that are available. They're master's level clinicians that are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who are there to help talk just one-on-one or, with one family about care planning options, about crisis intervention. Maybe it's just to lend a supportive listening ear. And so, we have that. We have support groups. We have education programs like this one, so that it's, just kind of one to a few, kind of people. On the other side of the screen, you can see my little bulldozers. At the same time that we're trying to help people push that boulder up the mountain, we're also trying to bulldoze that mountain down. And so all those kind of aspects of our work are really like the one to the masses. So we do that through a lot of our research and of our funding research. We do it through our policy work, both on the federal level and on the state level. And we do it through working with health systems to try to really change policies in health systems to make health systems more dementia friendly. So again, I'm just a visual person, but that kind of breaks it down of what the work of the association. Let's talk about that. Our education programs, kind of just like this one, we have lots of different topics. We love to talk to anyone who will listen to us. We have some topics that are just for a general audience. We have other topics that are really more specific and geared towards, family caregivers. So you can see on the screen there, some of them are like effective communication strategies, or understanding and responding to dementia-related behaviors, or legal and financial planning. So we are available to do those in person, about the last year and a half, we were doing everything virtual, but we had just now started going back to doing some of those things in person. We have learned, though, that we'll always kind of keep a hybrid model, we think now, though, because doing the virtual programs allowed so many people who, may not have had access to an in-person program before to be able to attend. So, so we're always going to kind of keep kind of a hybrid model now. We also have support groups that we help to get started all across the state, and we have support groups both for caregivers as well as support groups for people who are in the early stages of Alzheimer's and actually have a diagnosis. So just to kind of level set a little bit to begin with, and a question that we get all the time is, well, what is the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's? Or, a lot of times we'll, see that dementia and Alzheimer's are used, those words are used interchangeably. And really, we have to learn that dementia is the symptom. And so it's actually a collection of symptoms. And so if you can see there on the right side, if you kind of just think of dementia as the overarching umbrella. And then kind of, as a symptom, as a symptom goes, I guess, there can be lots of different causes of symptoms. So let's just say, if pain is the symptom, there can be lots of causes of pain. It could be that you burned your finger taking, a pan out of the oven. It could be that you cut yourself. It could be you broke a bone. It could be, a headache or a toothache is causing you pain. So there's lots of different causes of it. Dementia is the same thing. And so there are lots of different causes. Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia. And, we think about, Alzheimer's and dementia as just memory loss, but it's really way more than just memory loss and not being able to recall people's names and things like that. But it really is that collection of symptoms that together really affect your activities of daily living. So, it can be some memory loss, and, that goes along with it, but it's also things where, you forget how to do things that once really came easily, so maybe you are not able to count out change anymore, or maybe you used to be a fantastic cook and now you can't, following a recipe just doesn't even make sense. And you'll see too, people say, people with Alzheimer's disease, maybe they can't remember, their granddaughter's name, or can't remember things that happened, in the last 2 weeks, but they can recall things that happened 50 years ago with ease, and still tell you those stories in detail. And so you kind of think of it as kind of like a box. And if you have a box and you put things in that box, if that box starts to, overflow, the first things that are going to fall out of that box are the last things that were put in it. So, so that's kind of, how the memories work in this. What we're finding too is that most dementia is probably a little bit of mixed dementia. So, maybe Alzheimer's and a little bit of vascular dementia. Some of the other kinds of dementia are Lewy bodies, frontotemporal. There's some dementia that can be caused from Parkinson's disease, say. But again, Alzheimer's is the most common cause of it. Another thing I want you to know too is just, if you don't take away anything else from it, but this from today's presentation, is that Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging. We get so many people who I think just, again, I think it's a common, belief out in the community, but that Alzheimer's is something that older people get. And that is not the case. It's not a normal part of aging. It is a continuum, and we'll talk about this in a minute, that really begins way before the symptoms of dementia actually occur. It's a progressive disease. It's going to get progressively, worse and worse. It does cause, like I said, memory loss and a decline in cognitive abilities that just affect your everyday daily activities. So talking about that continuum that we just spoke about, when we're all born, we really start off cognitively unimpaired. And some people, will stay with that. But then the next phase is what we call MCI, or mild cognitive impairment. And you're going to hear me talk about MCI for a couple of different times here in this presentation. But MCI is something that it is some cognitive decline, but it doesn't really interfere with your day-to-day living, things that you do every day. And some people, if they get into that MCI phase, that's where they stop. They don't ever, ever, ever move into any of those dementia phases. But what research has shown though, is that for someone to move into those dementia phases, whether it be mild, moderate, or severe, they have had to pass at some point through that MCI phase. So you'll hear me talk about in some of these clinical trials that it reduces the risk of mild cognitive impairment, because we know if we can prevent people from moving into that mild cognitive impairment phase, then we are actually preventing new cases of dementia as well. Because if they never get into that MCI phase, then they're not going to continue on to the dementia phases. So we'll talk just a little bit about the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. This is Dr. Alois Alzheimer's and his patient, and I'm not going to say her name right probably, but it's the way I hear it pronounced is Auguste Dieter. This was back in 1906, and they were really kind of living in a scientific revolution period, I guess you could call it. And that was that microscopes were really coming into play. So upon her death, he was able to look at her brain underneath a microscope, and he found that there were three different things, really. One was what we call these beta amyloid plaques. So they were deposits of beta amyloid in the brain. These other things that were called tau tangles, and then also neurodegeneration of the brain. So, excuse me, you can see on the right side that a brain with Alzheimer's disease, advanced Alzheimer's disease, is significantly smaller because of the atrophy that the brain, that happens to the brain because of Alzheimer's disease. The beta amyloid plaques, we all hear about plaque buildup in our, in heart disease and things like that. And so, this is a buildup of plaques around neurons in the brain. And then tau, the way I've had that described to me kind of is that everyone has, and we need healthy tau in our brain, and that you can kind of think of it like railroad tracks that transport nutrients, throughout the brain. But what happens in Alzheimer's disease is those railroad tracks get all tangled up, so they're not able to carry out their function correctly. So those really are the three hallmarks of it. There's these beta amyloid plaques, which I'm going to talk about a lot in a minute when I talk about biomarkers, these tau tangles, and then the brain atrophy or shrinkage of the brain. So people ask too all the time, well, what puts you at a greater risk? Like I said a minute ago, Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging, but age is the greatest risk factor. And that is simply because the longer we live, the more chances we have that we may develop Alzheimer's. Females are at a higher risk of getting Alzheimer's disease than men are. And really that is, they think that's just because women typically live longer than men do. So again, just the longer that we live, of course, then that's going to put us at a greater risk factor of developing Alzheimer's. Our genetics, and these top things that I'm talking about, we really have no control over. My family history, I have no control over that. But because I do have a family history of Alzheimer's, it does put me at a higher risk of developing it. Our race and ethnicity, we don't know why, but African Americans are at twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's disease than Caucasians. We know that Hispanic Latinos are 1.5 times as likely to develop it. Again, we don't know why this is. They are doing, there's research going on every single day, trying to look at that. But that's just, it's just part of the data. Then, and like I said, some of those things we just can't change. We can't change our age, but then there are some things that we are learning that may be modifiable risk factors. So looking at our lifestyle habits, looking at our cardiovascular health, we're learning a lot that what's good for the heart is good for the brain. Our physical activity, things we hear all the time, exercise and diet and sleep, staying cognitively engaged, and then, staying social, and in even education. About that. So one of the things too that the Alzheimer's Association does that would have been kind of fallen on the right side of that mountain screen that I showed earlier is we do a lot of advocacy work. Like I said, again, on both the state level and the federal level. But on the federal level, one of the things that we really push for every year is research funding for the National Institutes of Health. So for Congress to give them on a yearly basis. So you can see here that we have had really, really tremendous success in getting that funding increased. So back in just 10 years ago, Congress was giving NIH, less than $450 million a year to do Alzheimer's research. Every year, we have continuously asked, and with the voices of so many, thousands, hundreds of thousands of our constituents and volunteers from around the country, we have asked for around an average of a $300 million increase each year. And you can see how that has increased substantially. This slide actually is a few months old. And so we actually now are up to $3.1 billion. And we just, I just got a notice yesterday, we were asking for another $289 million increase when we met with all of our members of Congress about 2 months ago. And their Senate Appropriations Committee actually recommended a $200 million increase. So we're hoping that, we'll be even closer to $3.4 billion, by the end of the year. So again, we just know that there is so much need for that research to find a treatment and a cure. One of the things we do as well, so we advocate for Congress to give more money to research, but we also fund a lot of research. So we actually are the largest nonprofit funder of Alzheimer's and dementia research in the entire world. We're actually able, Congress funds research, but it can only be here in the United States. One of the things, that we are actually able to do is fund research anywhere in the world. So we've got close to 600 projects going on right now in 31 different countries. So, I think that's super exciting. So again, I said this is a really exciting time in research. We have what we call the AAIC conference, and it is the Alzheimer's Association International Conference. It's the largest convening of scientists in the world to gather and simply, just focus on Alzheimer's research. Last year, the AAIC conference was supposed to be in the Netherlands, but of course, because of the pandemic, we had to do it virtual. But when it was in person every year, there was typically between 5,000 and 6,000 scientists that attended. Again, I kind of told you we've learned a little bit about having a hybrid model and how that can be, really beneficial. But with the conference being virtual last year, instead of 5,000 scientists, we had over 33,000 registrants from over 160 countries. So I think that was just phenomenal. Our AAIC Conference 2021 is actually taking place next week. It's going to be a hybrid event, so they are going to be actually in Denver, Colorado in person, but then also there'll be some, some virtual components as well. But what I'm going to talk about today are just some of the highlights from last year's conference, and then a couple of other things that are kind of going on that have developed since then. So last year, one of the big things at the conference was, and again, this is not something that you can just go and get at your doctor's office now, but it was talking about biomarkers, and specifically blood biomarkers. That, biomarkers are really just a marker that can measure change. Probably the most common one that, we all get every year is when we go to the doctor and we get our cholesterol screened, and so high cholesterol is a biomarker for heart disease. And so if we, get that simple blood test, if our cholesterol is high, probably, our doctor's going to probably put us on a therapeutic, a statin or something, and also kind of tell us, oh, you need to change your diet, you need to exercise, you need, do all those healthy lifestyle habits we all know we should do, but don't always do every day. But so that's really a biomarker. Up until, I think it was about 17 years ago now, the only way you could officially diagnose Alzheimer's disease, so knowing that someone had those amyloid beta plaques or the tau tangles or the shrinkage, the only way to know for sure if someone had Alzheimer's disease was upon autopsy. And then, like I said, about 16, 17 years ago, they were able to come up with PET scans that could show those hallmarks. And so that now, Alzheimer's disease could actually be officially diagnosed in the living. It can also be diagnosed through like cerebral, like spinal fluids and spinal taps and things like that. So there are ways to diagnose right now people who are living with Alzheimer's disease, but they're very expensive. They are very invasive. Nothing near as simple as like we have for cholesterol screening. But what they were talking about and so excited about at AAIC last year was there are several really, really promising studies on a blood test that could detect Alzheimer's disease. It specifically looks for this certain type of tau. It's called p-tau217. So it's very specific to Alzheimer's disease and very accurately distinguishes Alzheimer's from other neurodegenerative disorders. So again, this is not something that you can go to the doctor and get, right now. But there's lots of really, really promising studies on it. And I really think, we are on the cusp of something like this, really being readily available. One of the big reasons this would be such a positive move is because research shows that people may have Alzheimer's in their brain up to 20 years before the symptoms of dementia start to show up. So we may have some of those amyloid plaques and tau tangles in our brain 20 years before they actually start causing enough damage to the brain to cause those symptoms of dementia that really affect our daily life. So kind of just like, if you think, just like the cholesterol analogy I was given, researchers really believe that a future Alzheimer's therapy will be, a combination therapy, and that it will include some changes to your lifestyle. So, adopting more healthy eating habits, exercising, staying socially engaged, sleeping well, that kind of thing, as well as therapeutics. So kind of, exactly like what someone with high cholesterol right now, they would probably do for that. I'll go ahead and kind of throw it in here. I don't remember if I have a slide on it or not, but one of the things you may have heard about in the news really recently is a new therapeutic called aducanumab. That was the name of it in the trial. The brand name, I think, is but the brand name is ADUHELM. This is it's an anti-amyloid therapy, and so in the clinical trial, there was a clinical trial that was showed people who were in the very early stages of Alzheimer's. That's who was tested, people with MCI and in very early stages of Alzheimer's. It slowed their cognitive decline because it targets that amyloid plaque. Now, it doesn't improve their symptoms, but it just reduced the risk of cognitive decline by like 20%. So that was actually, that drug is the first of its kind. It's the first ever therapeutic approved for Alzheimer's disease that can, hopefully change the progression of the disease. Other drugs that have been approved for Alzheimer's disease can help with the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, but it really doesn't, nothing has ever changed the progression. So this Aduhelm was approved by the FDA back on June 7th. And so, we are super excited. We want people to have, more time, and anything that can possibly slow down the risk of this, or, slow down this cognitive decline would be, phenomenal. There are lots of other drugs that are in that anti-amyloid same category too. There are lots of other ones that are kind of, right around the, I don't want to say right around the corner, but, but that are very close, farther along in the clinical trial phases. You can see here that this is just kind of this may not be exactly the number as of today. You can tell this was April 2020, but there are lots of drugs still in the different phases of clinical trials, and to me that just shows lots of hope as well. And again, with the approval of Aduhelm, we know that whenever there is a first treatment for a disease ever, that really just puts excitement in that field, and just kind of invigorates the field. And so we're just super excited, or I'm super excited about everything that's going on in research right now. Of course, there are some drugs that, in those trials where they really are trying to change the course of the disease. But there's also still drugs that they are trying to develop to help with some of the different symptoms that people, have when they are going through Alzheimer's disease. So with to treat agitation and their, it may be insomnia, delusions and hallucinations, apathy, things like that. So this, really is just to say there's lots of drug development being done for all, coming at Alzheimer's disease from all different angles, not so some for the symptoms, some for the progression of the disease as well. So also in the past couple of years, one study that was super exciting that really was one of the first of its kind to show that these modifiable lifestyle changes could really have a really big reduction in cognitive decline was the Sprint Mind study. And what it was a study that looked at blood pressure. And it had two different groups of people. One group of people, they were treating their blood pressure to keep them at 120 systolic or below. So, I had always heard, through the years, let's say if your blood pressure's, 120 over 80, I had always heard, oh, you need to watch that bottom number, make sure that bottom number stays under 80. But this study was really looking at that top number, that systolic number. So they had one group they treated and were keeping theirs at 120 systolic. They had another group that they were keeping controlled at 140 systolic and below. And what they found was that was such a significant risk reduction for people entering that MCI, that mild cognitive impairment phase, so at 19% of reduction, that they ended up having to end the study early because they said it would have been unethical for them to keep that study going and having a group that they, were just being treated at 140 and below, because it was such, a great impact keeping it at 120 and below. So you can see there on the right side, it was a 19% reduction for risk for MCI, 17% for dementia, and then a 15% for a combination risk for MCI and dementia. So, again, talking about, we're learning really that what's good for the heart is good for the brain. One of the things we do as an association in research as well, we fund a lot of research, we advocate for a lot of research funding, but we also have a lot of clinical trials ourselves going on. One of those that we have right now going on is called the US Pointer Study, and it really is a study that's looking at those lifestyle interventions. I think it will be a fantastic data set and to look at and see what kind of reduction those modifiable lifestyle changes can really have on people. And so it's a 2-year study. There are about 2,000 participants in 5 different cities across the United States. That's just showing you where they are. Sorry. And what this study is going to be is people will be divided again into 2 different groups. One will be a self-guided lifestyle intervention group. One will be more of a really structured lifestyle intervention group. So think of, with coaches, things like that, I guess. What they're going to be doing, though, is really looking at physical activity, at nutrition, at their cognitive stimulation, at their sleep. So all of those daily lifestyle habits kind of thing. Again, that's going to be a 2-year study, and I think the what we learn out of that, I'm just excited to see. That US Pointer Study is actually part of a global study called the Worldwide Finger Study, and this slide just kind of shows where all studies of this kind are going on throughout the world. So we're part of a much bigger picture. And what we are, really hoping is to change the trajectory of Alzheimer's disease. So if we can develop a treatment by 2025 that delays the onset of Alzheimer's by just 5 years, you can see there that by the year 2050, that almost 6 million people who would have developed Alzheimer's by that year would not develop it. And so you can, just see how phenomenal that would be. One of the things that the Alzheimer's Association has is a program called Trial Match. I would encourage all of you to go online and kind of, look at this if it's something that you think you might be interested in getting involved in research. But, I showed that slide with all of these hundreds of clinical trials going on. Well, none of those trials can be successful, without participants. And what Trial Match does is it doesn't sign you up for any kind of research trial, but you go online, you just fill out, it's like 10 different questions, and then according to what you answer on those questions, it will tell you if you qualify for any studies in your area. And if you qualify for any of those studies, it will give you the name of the researcher or the name of the, it's usually a university or the hospital or whoever who's conducting that trial, and gives you their contact information so that you can get in contact with them to learn more information about the study and then decide if you want to take advantage of it, or get involved in it or not. So again, it doesn't sign you up for anything. It takes, when I took the little quiz, I think it takes about 5 minutes, to answer those questions. There are participants that they need who are, people with a diagnosis, people who are caregivers, people who are just healthy volunteers, people, like me who have a family history but don't have any symptoms yet. So, they need people from the whole spectrum. So just, excuse me, have to put a plug in for our Trial Match program. Another thing that we have that's fairly new is our Science Hub app. And this is something totally free that you can download on your smartphone. There's the little image of it so you can kind of see what to search for. But it is something that you can download and you will get the latest and greatest that's going on in the Alzheimer's research world, and just have it at your fingertips. They, really update this, over the last couple of months since the approval of ADUHELM. It's really kind of been almost on a daily basis. So if, the Alzheimer's research is something that you're interested in, I would strongly encourage you to download that. We also have our Walk to End Alzheimer's. That is our signature fundraising event and awareness event throughout the year. We would love for any and all of you to join us for that. It is we have 8 that will be this fall, taking place this fall around the state, and they are great events. You can form a team. It's free. It doesn't cost anything, but you can form a team in honor of someone or in memory of someone. We have, lots of ways to remember people, and we have what we call a promise garden, and it's flowers, and you can get a flower that's of a different color depending on what your loss was, or if you're a current caregiver or a person with disease, or have lost someone to Alzheimer's. So just wanted to let you guys know that. And then I thought I had one more slide, but I will take any questions. You also, my email address is on the screen there, and our website is on there. We have lots and lots of different resources on our website, so I would encourage any of you to go to that. We have resources for caregivers. We have resources for professional caregivers, so people working in assisted living and long-term care facilities, for first responders, for nurses, for doctors and physicians, cognitive assessment toolkits and things like that, as well as lots of different updates on research, education programs that you can watch that are totally free as well. Just kind of, watch on demand, I guess is the right word for that. And so anyway, I would encourage all of you to go to our website to learn more about Alzheimer's disease. And then also, I don't have it on the screen, but our 800 number is always available on there as well. There's our 800 number, the 800-272-3900. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay.
Well, Lisa,
ooh, that was a lot of information.
that was, but it was very helpful. I can't tell you, we've had a lot of speakers this year, and we've had a lot of people talk about fitness and, those dietary changes. And you brought it out once again, how it is so important to have a healthy lifestyle. If you want to, live longer. And now you talked to us about the importance of really hopefully helping delay some of those symptoms from Alzheimer's. And so you mentioned exercise. So of course, exercise, of course, there's some things we can't change. And you mentioned that, like, just getting older, our race, and if it's hereditary. But I'm thinking exercise is important. What about water intake? Someone asked about water intake. Is that important as well? For Alzheimer's? Do you know? I know you're not a scientist.
Right. I don't know. I've never heard. I'm going to have to go try to look and ask one of my med-sci people, though. I've never heard water intake specifically for Alzheimer's, but you hear all the time how important, our body is made up mostly of water, and how important it is to stay hydrated. So that would only make sense, so I would, my educated guess would be yes, that could be a factor. But I don't know that, but I will find out and I will let you know, Miss Pam.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And then what I've been told, I'm sure it's something I read, because I'm always trying to do things to stimulate my brain, because I heard that things like doing word puzzles and stuff like that will help as well. Is that, do you know anything? Is that pretty much true?
Yes. So research does show that staying cognitively engaged and doing those brain puzzles and Sudoku, or however you say that word, and those word searches and things like that. So So yes, that research does show that can help slow that risk of cognitive decline.
I'm very excited about how the research, because I know you mentioned, all that money for research. And so I was thinking, I said, wow, not just your program, why so much money needing research, but it's great to see that, possibly they can detect it 20 years prior and
Right.
possibly maybe even slow down some of the symptoms. I thought that
Right.
was awesome.
Yeah, that's what I think excites me the most, is that it's very scary to me. Like when I first heard, oh, we could have, Alzheimer's in our, I could have it in my brain right now, and just not have any of those symptoms, which was super scary to me. But if we can get to a point where there is some kind of simple blood test like that, and if I could go to the doctor and find out, okay, Lisa, yes, you do have some of those hallmarks in your brain. Hasn't caused any damage yet. And now let's wait till this pointer study and everything comes out. But if you can really start changing your lifestyle, adopting that healthy lifestyle habit, and then if we've got something, like that Aduhelm, or like some of these other ones that are kind of in those phase 2 and phase 3 trials right now, that can come about, that they can say, oh, and you can take this therapeutic and it can, hopefully target that amyloid plaque you already have in your brain before it starts causing damage. Then that's super exciting to me, because then, it may be that I can live with Alzheimer's disease without ever developing that dementia. That could, if we could get to that point, that would be, phenomenal.
And then, I was thinking about some of the symptoms, and when I used to work in a nursing home, there were some clients who were, we call it pleasantly confused. They were so sweet, but then you had your other Alzheimer's patients who were just, it really affected their behavior. They were really,
Mhm.
just out of sorts and, and combative.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned about, people losing their ability to do life skills, cognition and memory. It affects that. Does it affect anything else? Um,
Yeah, so I will tell you one of the phrases I have heard from actually it was a neurologist, and I thought, gosh, that is just sublime that he says that. But he said, if you have met one person with Alzheimer's disease, you've met one person with Alzheimer's disease, and because they can all be very, very different. It can affect them, in different ways like that. And some, they do get more angry and have outbursts, and just that agitation, and very accusatory, and accusing people of stealing from them, and of conspiring against them, and that kind of thing. And then some can be just as sweet as sugar, and and they never have that kind of behavioral issue. um, it can be too. People ask me, they were like, I'll get people ask me things like, well, I mean, I forget all the time where I put my keys, and is that, or I forget where I park. I do that all the time. You go to Walmart, you walk out and go,
right.
and you just press your button until you hear it, and really, if you can, let's just say that if I lose my keys, I can usually retrace my steps. Okay, I came in, got out of the car, I went to the kitchen, then I went to here, and if you can retrace your steps, then that's probably not anything, to be worried about. As we age, we do all have some cognitive decline, and that, some of that is a normal part of aging, but Alzheimer's disease is not, knowing how to, I worked with a family a couple of years ago, and he was telling me about that the first time they really knew something was wrong with his father was that they found him on the front porch one morning. This was like in January, it was cold, and he had said he couldn't figure out how to turn the doorknob. And so he ended up spending the night, on the front porch. And so it can be something, as simple as that, to something, somebody used to be really good at, again, like following a complicated recipe, or algebra problem or something, I don't know, but things like that, so it can be along the whole gamut, I guess is what I'm saying.
What is the earliest onset that you know of? I know you mentioned most of the time it's 65, but it's been some cases of earlier. What's the earliest that you heard of?
We have a volunteer she was, I believe, 36 when she was diagnosed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So now that's very rare. Most people are over the age of 65. I know of a good number, though, that are in their 50s when they're diagnosed. But that one the one woman who's a volunteer of us, she's a very passionate advocate for us for when we go and speak to different members of Congress. And of course, you can, understand how her story is so impactful, because people think of someone with Alzheimer's disease as somebody that's, in their 70s or 80s, and you see this 36-year-old vibrant woman walk in and say, I have Alzheimer's disease. And, that's a very impactful story.
Yeah. And then here's one more scientific question, but I was talking, I was thinking, I was always told that Alzheimer's is possibly linked to diabetes. So like there's a stage 1, stage 2, and they're thinking Alzheimer's might be like that last stage. And so I know there's a lot of studies and there's a lot of research going on, and you mentioned the factors.
Yeah.
Any truth to that, or is diabetes the
I
common?
do know that, and I don't know exactly why, but I do know, yes, that things like heart disease and diabetes and obesity and things like that do put you at a higher risk for that, for developing cognitive decline.
Okay.
So, okay. I don't know exactly all the interactions, but I tell you what would probably have that too is on that science hub that I was showing you guys, you can go in and search different things. So if you wanted to go in and search diabetes and Alzheimer's disease and the correlation, I'm sure that you would come up with some articles on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was great. So, very informative, great information. Now, once again, I want to make sure I understood. So back then to detect Alzheimer's, well, now you can do a PET scan, but can you also now do blood tests? Did you say you can actually go, or that's not yet?
That's not available yet. So it's not something you could go to the doctor and get just yet. But there's and I'll be super interested. Maybe I can come back and talk to y'all again in a couple of months or next month sometime. We have that AAIC conference next week. And so that's really where like the most cutting edge research is kind of unveiled. That's kind of too dramatic of a word, I guess, but presented. And so I'll have the most up-to-date information about where those blood tests are. But yeah, last year at AAIC, there were several studies that were showing such promising results on that. So so hopefully we'll get an update on, maybe when that could be, available to everybody. But
okay. Well, no, this was awesome. Thank you so much for that.
You are welcome.
Because science is always on the cutting edge. And so it's great that there are people out there who see the need for this, so that, we can hopefully get ahead of this and totally eliminate it.
Yeah.
And so we definitely do want you back, maybe in a couple of months or whatever, just to kind of see if anything new has happened.
Yeah.
So no, this would be great. And then I'm just gonna just do a couple of announcements just for our viewers, and then I want you to come back at the end, Lisa, and just kind of sum it all up for us. And if there's anything you want to share with us, you can also share your information again about how people can contact you as well.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Give me 1 second. Okay, well, welcome everyone, of course, again to now our announcements. You've just heard from Miss Lisa Holman of the Alzheimer's Association of Alabama. Great job she did on talking about Alzheimer's. Don't forget, this is our theme year, is Reconstruction 2021. And so we are believing God that He is going to reconstruct everything in your life and our life as well. You can watch all of our virtual events, all of our services on YouTube. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, and we are on Instagram. And then, of course, we have an app. The church has an app. Simply go to your app store so that you can continue to stay connected to BBC Worldwide. And you will locate My Sunday, which is one word, and then locate Birmingham Bible Church, and you can stay connected to all the things that are going on through Birmingham Bible Church. Then to be a part of our business directory, to receive text messages and notifications of things that are going on and to continue to stay connected, you're going to text BBCWW to 94253. That's BBCWW to 94253. Now, our business directory. The church now has a directory on our website. In order to be a part of it, simply go to our website, bhambc.org. Then click on business directory at the bottom. And then, of course, you can click on a directory and you can share your information. And so, listen, you not only are a part of our church's directory, but you also entered into an over 50,000 member strong Christian database. And so people all over the world can see your business and hopefully support you as well. So, of course, our website again is bhambc.org. And then on Sunday and every Sunday during the summer, Pastor Mason is doing a series, Summer in the Psalm. So every Sunday you will get a different message from a different psalm of the Bible. So very encouraging and very uplifting as well. Of course, our services are every Sunday at 11 o'clock a.m. And then, like we said before, we just heard from Lisa Holman on today. A couple of weeks ago, we heard from Miss Alexia Vaughn. She talked about the importance of taking care of our eyes. Last week, we had Miss Nikki Ivory talked about summer programs. And so, listen, you don't want to miss entrepreneurs. You don't want to miss next week. We have Lance Jones, who's going to talk about owning your own business, the ins and outs, things to consider, pros and cons. So that's going to be next Wednesday at the same time. And then on the 31st, at 10 a.m., we have our back to school virtual rally, and our theme is back to school and excellence. We have great speakers who are going to be presenting to make sure our children, our parents, and our school officials are all on the same page when it comes to going back to school. And so you don't miss any of these speakers. We have someone talking to us about child nutrition, what our children need to be eating, not eating. We have someone talking about social media. That's a real key with our teens and our children, our younger children now. So we have an IT person. She's going to tell you, parents, our kids are doing some things that they shouldn't be doing on social media. So of course that, our mental health, how to stay healthy. So just so many great topics. So that's going to be July 31st at 10 a.m. That's on a Saturday. And then, of course, our small group is going to begin August the 14th at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. Our new curriculum is going to be 30 days to taming your tongue. So important and so needed. And then our prayer room call is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. That number is 515-604-9324, and the access code is 381179. And then, of course, thank you guys how you support our Compassion International children. We support 11 Haitian children. Thank you so much for that. Because of your donations and your gifts, it goes towards food, medical supplies, Christian counseling, educational needs, and anything to help them grow physically as well. And then thank you for your continued support towards our land, our future. We are believing God, as always, for debt-free ministry, as we have always done it. And so thank you for how you continue to support that as well. We need everybody to make sure that you are telling someone about all of the different events and programs. You don't want to keep this good news to yourself. You want to share with other people so that we all can be informed and that we all can be enlightened. And of course, have an amazing week. One other announcement I failed to mention, every first Sunday of the month, we have our drive-up service. And so on the month of August, we're having a school supply drive. So we're going to be giving out school supplies to all of our students, drive up style, and then we're going to give supplies to our teachers as well. So please make sure you donate those items. You can come that morning. We'll give you a specific time so that you can bring your items. And so that's all we have. Well, Miss Lisa, thank you so much for joining us today. Like I said, we're going to have you back when we get some more scientific data and everything. Is hopefully we can get some more things implemented to help just decrease this Alzheimer's disease and the prevalence of it. And so is there anything that you would like to add before we dismiss?
No, just thank you again so much for having us. Please, I'll just give you our website because that's got, you can find all the information on there, but it's ALZ.org. Please help us spread the word of the different care and support resources we have that are available to people. So, if you know anyone who is on the journey, if it's you or a family member or neighbor, church member, whoever it is, please let them know that we are there.
We definitely will. And once again, y'all, the website, and I put it in the chat room on Facebook, but it's ALZ.org. Thank you so much, Ms. Lisa. Listen, guys, make sure y'all stay healthy. You're maintaining that healthy lifestyle. Make sure you're exercising and you're eating right. We had a speaker talk about the Mediterranean diet and all sorts of stuff. And so we have the ladies' pajama party. She talked about healthy things and healthy foods to eat as well. So listen, make sure you keep those things. If you forgot and need a reminder, you can go back as always and watch on all of our social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on Twitter. So thank you so much, guys. And thank you, Miss Lisa.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.